When I first met Caroline Vance, she seemed harmless, the kind of coworker who complimented your outfit and brought donuts to team meetings. She had this sugary, effortless charm that made people feel comfortable around her. But I've learned something in life. Sometimes the sweetest smiles hide the sharpest knives. I started at Frostwell Communications 2 years ago as a project coordinator. It wasn't glamorous, but it was competitive. A marketing firm full of hungry, polished people who thrived on being the best. And I was good at my job, really good. I stayed late, handled crisis accounts, and quietly fixed other people's mistakes. I wasn't loud about my wins, but I didn't need to be. My results spoke for themselves. That, apparently, made me a target. Caroline joined 6 months later. She was quick to charm everyone, especially our manager, Lucas, who had a weakness for confident smiles and people who laughed at his terrible jokes. Caroline and I were on the same team, handling overlapping accounts. In the beginning, she'd often ask for my help. "Could you just look over this proposal?" Or, "I can't figure out the analytics dashboard. Can you show me?" I didn't mind. I believed in teamwork. But soon, small things started going wrong. Files would disappear from shared folders. Deadlines I'd already met suddenly weren't recorded. Clients would call, confused about missing deliverables. At first, I blamed the system. Technical errors, accidental overwrites. It happens. But after the third time a major document vanished right before a client presentation, I got suspicious. And then, one evening, I caught her. It was late, around 8 p.m., and the office was nearly empty. I'd gone back in to grab my phone charger. As I passed her cubicle, I saw her screen lit up. She didn't notice me at first. I watched her hover over my project folder, drag a file into the trash, and click delete. My stomach twisted. I stepped forward. "Working late?" She jumped, spinning around in her chair, face instantly flushed. "Oh, Nora, you scared me," she said, laughing nervously. "Just cleaning up some shared drives. There were duplicates everywhere." I smiled tightly. "Right, duplicates." She stammered something about helping the team stay organized, then quickly packed up her things. I didn't confront her, not yet, because the thing about revenge is it's wasted when rushed. I wanted to understand why. Over the next few weeks, I paid attention. Caroline had a pattern. She'd sabotage my files, then swoop in during meetings with backup versions of my work, subtly implying she'd saved the day. She'd add little comments like, "Oh, I think Nora must have been swamped. I just tried to help." It was masterful, really. Quiet, manipulative, almost invisible. The kind of betrayal no one sees coming. And Lucas? He adored her. "Caroline's such a team player," he'd say, glancing between us in meetings. "Maybe you two could learn from each other." The irony nearly made me laugh. One afternoon, I overheard Caroline bragging to another coworker, Tessa, near the break room. "Lucas said I might lead the next campaign," she said. "Poor Nora's been drowning in revisions lately. I think she's burning out." I stood around the corner, gripping my coffee cup so tightly my hand ached. That's when something in me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. Caroline wanted my reputation, my credibility. Fine, she could have them, just long enough to ruin herself with them. I started small. I stopped helping her. I stopped answering her questions, stopped reviewing her drafts. She noticed, of course. "Hey, can you check my proposal before I send it?" she asked one morning. "I just want to make sure the formatting's right." "Sorry," I said with a polite smile. "Lucas asked me to focus on my own tasks." Her eyes flickered, irritation quickly masked by charm. Of course, totally fair. That same week, I set my plan in motion. We had a massive account coming up with a luxury skincare brand, Aurelienne, worth nearly $500,000 in annual revenue. Lucas divided tasks between Caroline and me. She'd handle the market analysis, and I'd manage the creative strategy. But there was overlap, and naturally, we had to share files. Perfect. I created 2 versions of our shared folder. One was real, my genuine research, drafts, timelines. The other looked identical, but contained a single document named Aurelienne Strategy Report _final.docx. Inside that file was a masterpiece of nonsense. Entire paragraphs about fictional demographics, fabricated statistics, and a random tangent about penguins that I threw in purely for my own amusement. I saved it under my initials, timestamped it properly, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, the fake file was gone. I checked the version history. Caroline had copied it at 9:47 p.m. After that, I made sure to accidentally mention to Lucas that I'd uploaded the final version of my section the night before. "Perfect," he said. "Caroline told me she's merging the decks. We'll review everything Friday morning before the client presentation." My heart raced, but outwardly I stayed calm. I even complimented Caroline's new dress that day. She smiled, smug and radiant, with no idea she was walking toward her own downfall. Friday morning arrived. The CEO, Margaret Chen, attended the presentation, a rare event since she usually trusted the team leads to handle client pitches. Lucas, eager to impress, made a show of introducing Caroline and me as our most promising creative pair. Caroline stood at the front, confident, pointer in hand, hair perfectly in place. "Thank you, Lucas," she began. "As you'll see in this report, we've developed a comprehensive strategy for Aurelian's upcoming campaign." She clicked to the next slide. The title appeared, Market Strategy and Insights by Caroline Vance. She launched into the presentation with her usual poise. But then the room began to shift. Heads tilted, brows furrowed. A few people exchanged confused glances. Caroline kept talking, oblivious, until Margaret raised a hand. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "Can you go back to slide 5? Caroline froze mid-sentence. The slide showed a pie chart labeled Preferred Moisturizer Flavors Among Penguin Enthusiasts. There was an awkward pause. Caroline blinked. I think that's a formatting error," she stammered. "Slide 6, please," Margaret said coolly. Caroline clicked. The next slide read, Projected Growth Opportunities, Antarctic Spa Resorts. Someone coughed to hide a laugh. Lucas's face turned beet red. "Caroline," he said slowly, "what is this?" She looked like a deer in headlights. This isn't the right file," she said, voice trembling. I sat quietly at the table, feigning confusion. "Wait, is that the report you sent last night?" I asked, perfectly innocent. "I thought you double-checked it before forwarding." Her eyes shot to me, panic, fury, realization all colliding at once. I must have uploaded the wrong version," she said, scrambling. "I'll fix it right now." Margaret stood. "No need. I think we've seen enough." The silence was suffocating. Caroline's voice cracked. "It's not my fault. Nora, she must have—" "Enough," Lucas said sharply. "We'll discuss this later." But later never came for her. By that afternoon, an email went out. Caroline Vance was no longer with the company. No explanation, just the sterile phrasing of corporate exile. When I walked past her now empty desk, I noticed she'd left behind a few sticky notes. One read, "Prove yourself, no one else will." Another said, "Don't get caught." I smiled faintly, poetic, really. Over the next few weeks, things returned to normal, calmer, quieter. Lucas avoided mentioning Caroline altogether. Margaret, however, called me into her office one morning. "You handled yourself well during that fiasco," she said. "I heard you caught the inconsistencies before the client did." I hesitated, then nodded modestly. I tried to flag them, but she'd already submitted. Margaret studied me for a moment. "Keep doing what you're doing, Nora. You have integrity. That's rare around here." I left her office with a promotion offer in hand. A few days later, I heard Caroline had applied for jobs at rival firms, but the marketing world is small. Word spreads fast. Her name was mud. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance. She'd tried to erase my work, my credibility, my peace of mind. All I did was give her the rope she so eagerly tied herself with. Months later, I found one of her social media posts, a vague, self-pitying quote about betrayal. "Some people smile to your face while plotting your downfall," she'd written. I almost laughed. The irony was too rich. If she only knew that my favorite part wasn't the firing, or the meeting, or even the stunned silence in that conference room. It was that exact moment her confidence cracked, when she realized the illusion she'd built so carefully was collapsing from within. That's when I knew she understood. That's when justice landed. I don't hate her. I don't even think about her often. But every time I upload a file now, I smile. Not because I'm afraid someone will delete it, but because I know I've already deleted something much worse. The version of me that let people like her walk all over me in the name of being nice. Never again. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't a scream or a scene. It's a quiet click of send, and the sound of someone else's lives catching fire in your wake. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.